Families have been searching for answers for years to the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital scandal. As everyone in this Parliament now knows, that hospital was opened before it was safe, and children and adults died as a result. John Swinney said the first time the government knew about problems at the hospital was March 2018. But even after that date, the government were denying the scale of the problem. Now, while there has been understandable focus on the lives lost, there were many others harmed. Prophylaxis, powerful anti-infection drugs, are typically used short-term, but for many children at the hospital, they were prescribed for prolonged periods as long as 9 months with side effects. Patients were told this was standard treatment, not connected to the hospital environment. Why were they lied to?
First Minister.
Mr Sarwar raises an important issue about the clinical care for children within the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, and this is one of the material issues that the inquiry that the Government has set up under the leadership of Lord Brodie is designed to provide answers to for families. Now, I am not a clinician. I accept that clinical judgments will be made in the care of individuals. But the establishment by this Government of the inquiry into the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital is designed to provide those answers to those families, the answers they deserve, and that is why the Government set up the inquiry. And I want to make sure that Lord Brodie has every opportunity to provide his answers on that question.
Anna Sarwar.
There has been a group of victims whose story has not been told enough so far. These families believe that their children have been left with lifelong debilitating conditions as a result of prolonged use of these drugs due to infection risks caused by the hospital environment. And I want to share some of these cases today, all of them after March 2018. Anika's daughter Ishal, 9, who wakes up most mornings screaming, clutching her stomach in pain. Karen's son Caleb, 10, who has chronic tummy pains, incontinent issues and struggles to walk. Leanne's son William, 13, who was so sick on these drugs he burned all the enamel off his teeth. Charmaine's daughter 9, Paige 9, who has pain in her limbs and severe stomach issues, so can't go to school. Her parents told me there's a culture of cover-ups and that people were playing God with these children's lives. And I asked the families what they would ask if they were standing here and were facing John Swinney. And Mark, whose daughter Charlie is 14 and has to take regular hormone injections, said simply, "I would ask John Swinney, how do you sleep at night?"
First Minister.
Sir, I can't give an opinion about the clinical decisions that are offered in individual cases. What I can do is express my sympathy to the families that are involved, recognise their suffering and provide them with the reassurance that the inquiry that the Government has established under the leadership of Lord Brodie is designed to capture the evidence and provide the answers to those families. And that is what Lord Brodie has a remit to do, and the Government has supported Lord Brodie in the provision of information to ensure that he can undertake that task. And that is what we expect Lord Brodie to do. Now, I will, of course, always listen with care to the perspective and the interests of families who have been affected by the National Health Service and the circumstances that they face, and do all that I possibly can do to address their suffering. And that's the commitment I give to those families.
Anna Sarwar.
Presiding Officer, all the families whose tragic stories I have shared are here today in the Parliament. And each and every single one of them who are standing right now have spent years having to stand up for themselves and a system that has misled them and treated them appallingly. Cover-ups, secrecy, misdirection and downright deception, with tragic consequences. They all want the truth about what happened to their children, and they want no other family to suffer like they have. Now, John Swinney has twice referenced the public inquiry, but he knows that the public inquiry is not looking at individual cases and therefore cannot give these families the answers that they deserve or that they are looking for. So will he commit today to setting up a genuinely independent expert panel, not connected to the Health Board or the Government, to look at each of these cases on an individual basis, allow each of these families to ask all the questions that they have, so they can get the answers they need and, finally, the truth that they deserve?
First Minister.
President Officer, I want families who have suffered to get the truth. That is why the Government has established the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, which it was asked to do by this Parliament. And that is why we have provided all of the information that we have to the inquiry to enable it to undertake its activities. Now, in the course of today, I will be meeting families who have been affected by the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital issues. I will be seeing other families in the course of my diary in the next couple of weeks as well, because I am absolutely committed to making sure that families get the truth. Now, Mr Sarwar asked me to put in place a process which I think, in all honesty, I have to reserve my position on until we get the report from Lord Brodie, because Parliament has asked for a public inquiry to be undertaken, and I cannot, as First Minister, prejudge the outcome of that public inquiry. That is what I think is the rational thing to do. But I will consider the point that Mr Sarwar gives. I give candid answers to Parliament. That's my style as First Minister. It's what I want to do. And what I'm saying to Mr Sarwar is, having established a public inquiry, we have to enable that inquiry to take its course. And that's the approach the Government will take. I will consider his request, and I will, of course, discuss these issues with the families that I meet in the course of my diary in the next few weeks.